Chris, I'll go ahead and kick it over to you.
Or I guess
Oh,
me.
I think it's Priya. I think it's Priya
Okay.
on the docket. This
Priya,
time.
okay, Priya, it's on you.
Just so everybody knows how serious Mike takes the solar flares. Last week, I had my internet out for our team meeting, and I text Mike. I say, hey, I can't jump on. The internet's down. He just texts me back a screenshot of the solar flare activity that's happening. No other words but that. So that was so good. Awesome. Okay, so let me bring up the slide deck here. Okay. All right, so today's Process Champion Network is on process improvement. I see 26 people on the call, some new faces to me, most I know, but some new faces. So I would love to get some introductions to those that I don't know. Just to give you a brief agenda of what we're doing today, we'll take a look at the roadmap that we have lined up for 2023 for this PCN network. We'll do a little recap of what we talked about in our last PCN in March and just see where we're at as a group. We'll share between ourselves any successes or challenges that have happened since last PCN or just overall. And then we'll talk a little bit about process improvement and how we can fast track our departments and units to get going and mobilizing and process improvement a little quicker than maybe perhaps we're used to. And then just seeing what other additional support resources that we've created for you since the last PCN. We always try to come back to you every PCN with a little more resources than we have last time, because we as BPMO and as a team are always learning about what resources can best help university in process work. Okay. So any new faces we have on the call today, feel free to just unmute yourself. You can go camera on, camera off, and just give a brief introduction for any of those new to the call today.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Maya Gehring Harris. I'm in University Development and Alumni Relations and one of our campus event managers, and I love being a champion for things, so I'm very excited to be part of this group.
Welcome, Maya.
Hi, everyone. Patrick Reed. I'm the Regional Director for BEARS. Used ProMap and the ProSci methodology where I was at before. So yeah, happy to be here and interested in being part of this group.
Thanks, Patrick.
Hi, I'm Allison Anderson, Coverage Cisneros. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm the Business Continuity Specialist with the Office of Emergency Management.
Awesome, welcome.
Ingrid Hunt, Senior Business System Analyst for RSSP, handling technology planning. Have done a handful of process improvement projects here at Berkeley and many outside. So happy to be here. I've been trying to get to a meeting, but haven't had luck. But so today was the day. Looking forward to collaborating with you and learning more about the program and the team.
Awesome, welcome.
Hi, my name is Katie Urbanowicz. I'm also from RSSP, project analyst, and working on a variety of projects across our units. So just being able to hear from you all and what you're currently doing and how we can apply that to help with our processes is super exciting. Thanks for inviting me.
Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Yogananda Pittman. I am the newly appointed Chief of Police here at UCPD. I have met a number of people on the call, but a lot of new faces. I am ecstatic to be here. I must confess, I did not do my homework on the Process Champion Network. So to the extent that we could, and I do have the website, but I just haven't had time to read to understand the purpose and how we fit into the group. But I'm excited to learn, happy to provide the campus with all things security related, and look forward to working with you individually as we move forward. Thank you.
Welcome, Chief Pittman. Thanks for you being here.
Hi, Scott Nemus. I'm with Berkeley IT, IT Service Management Team. And I think there's a lot of, so two of my colleagues, Lisa and Sarah, have been participating in this and have been sharing some of the ProMap experience they have. And I think there's a lot of benefit we can get from working with you in our role. So this is the first meeting I've had, I haven't had a conflict with, so wanted to check it out.
Awesome.
Great.
All right.
And then Mary.
Yeah, I was gonna make sure everybody else went first. Hi, everybody. My name's Mary. I'm the newest member of the BPMO team. I just joined beginning of April, so I'm 6 or 7 weeks here on the team. I'm a technical project manager on the team. Excited to be a part of this group and have this presentation today. So thanks, team.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, well, welcome everyone. This is very exciting. I've never had this many impromptu introductions, so this is great. This is a great PCN. Okay, so let's jump into the next slide. For those, since we have a good mix of people that are new, but those of us have also been here for a bit, it's a good slide to recap what we've already done and where we'll be going. Mike, on the website, I'm pretty sure we have all of our content that we've already done in other PCNs. So for those who see a topic that was desirable for you to learn about, but you just weren't able to attend, or in the future something comes up, the content will always be on the BPMO website under the PCN Network subpage. So we started off the new year celebrating success. We launched the PCN in 2022. So this is our second year of doing the PCN. The overall kind of schematic of getting this up and running and thinking about the need on campus was, we know that I heard from all the roles that were just newly introduced, we're all at least thinking process savvy in some way. We're all dealing with process in some way in our roles. And so I know a lot of us are starting to move more in this direction. And it was coming out of our team, seeing that everybody wants to move in this direction, but nobody has enough time to really dedicate to it full blown. So we said 6 hours, prioritize process in 6 hours in 1 year. If you haven't done any other work besides come to these meetings, you've done 6 hours more process work than you might have done otherwise. So this is the second year of that. And so we're on the third hour in 2023. So celebrating success at the beginning of January to just showcase all the work we had done last year in mobilizing a grassroots movement to get it up and running and having a group that we see before us today. And those on the invite list who weren't able to come today. In March, which was just our last PCN, we talked about making process your new normal. So really understanding what process is, and then why is it necessary to work into our daily practice or our weekly or monthly practices, and how can that really help create efficiencies for ourselves going forward in the future. In that particular meeting, we showcase a few easy kind of tips and tricks that we say, hey, if you want to do this work, just kind of start with something you know, start documenting. Even if you don't know how to document, you could even just write a list of processes that you prioritize. You know, we give a lot of tips and tricks like that. So definitely go back and check out that slide deck if that's something that interests you, to see how you can quick start process as your new normal. And then today's meat and potatoes, we'll be talking about process improvement, which basically just feeds off of the last session. So if you were able to document a process, what is it that you're going to be able to do with that process? You can do a plethora of things, and the most buzzy thing to do and the most helpful is process improvement. And so today's session, we'll talk about PDCA and what that means in our world of process improvement at Berkeley. Future topics that we'll showcase in July, September, and November, we'll be talking about facilitation. So we've kind of staggered these meeting sessions so that they feed off of one another. You're always kind of learning the next kind of big tip and trick that you can use to kind of keep going in this work. So once you've learned about process improvement, the next best thing is, how do I facilitate that type of work? So we'll go into facilitations, kind of best practices for overall facilitation of process documentation and facilitation of process improvement sessions. And then in September, we'll go into maybe more active sponsorship. And then in November, we'll be talking about the Berkeley process architecture, which is the amalgamation of all the processes that we all document together. What does that look like as one unit? Why do we care to have it in one area and look at it as one homogeneous repository? So Today we'll be focusing, Nick and I will be talking to you today about process improvement. But like I said before, please feel free to visit the BPMO webpage for more information. Okay. So since our last meeting, I kind of left it hanging out there. I said, just do something, just start somewhere, let's just see what happens. And so maybe some of these statistics pertain to the people on the call. Maybe they're people who are part of the PCN who weren't able to attend the call today, or maybe they're new to process in general. But let's just take a look at some statistics that have happened since our last meeting. So since our last meeting, we've had over 20 new users request to be in ProMap. So this is since March 15th. We've had over 20 new user requests. And we've also had 12 of those 20 new users become content creators, meaning these are people who are writing process maps, creating process documentation, and publishing them out to their units so that people can understand the work that's being done within their own units. We've had 55 new process maps created. And that's not necessarily just the new users, that's people who are already existing in ProMap as a user today. We've had, and so this next statistic is a very interesting one. I think my team will find it interesting as well. We as BPMO get process documentation inquiries all the time. Eric England's on the call. He is somebody who will email me and he'll say, hey, I have a whole 60-page document, of process work, but I need to get it into ProMap. How do I do this? I got an inquiry. I need to get this in a ProMap. So we get inquiries like that all the time where somebody hands us a Word document or a PDF. So we've had over 12 individuals between just the last PCN and this PCN who have come to us with some sort of process need. So that's pretty cool. That's totally outside of even ProMap. That's just people coming to us about process. We've had 76 new process map publications on ProMap, which means that these, once ProMaps are published, these are visible to people across the board on campus if they have the web link. So this is 76 new publications that are available to anyone. And then we've had, we like to call this bucket like the feedback loop. Basically, if you understand how ProMap works or any process feedback loop works, is if you have your process document and transparent out there, you're allowed to intake feedback to your process from people who are using it and interacting with your process. So we've had 12 new kind of feedback statements within our ProMap that have been feedback statements that people can iterate on and help make their process, continuously improve their process and make their process more efficient and better. So at a glance, I mean, I know that maybe it's not thousands, but to me, this is meaningful data here. Even small numbers are meaningful, and I think small numbers can be meaningful. 55 new maps created to me is no small feat. That's 55 more documents than we would have had if we didn't have people doing this work in ProMap. So thank you to the PCN. Thank you to the people who are a part of this network, and for the people who are continuing to do this work. We recognize it, we see it, and we love it. So that's awesome. Okay. Now, I've been doing a lot of talking. What I really want to hear from is the people on the call here today. Really just hearing from you about successes and challenges that you've had since the last PCN. I know a lot of people are new on the call today. So hearing about success and challenges that you've had in making process your new normal, or even working process into the fabric of how you do your work, even maybe talking about your experiences with process improvement, how they've been successful, or maybe how you have opportunity to keep improving on that area. So I'm just going to open it out. There's maybe silence, maybe not, but I'll leave it out there and we'll see what happens.
Okay, we have Lisa raising her hand.
Awesome. Lisa.
Hello there. I just wanted to really just say that I have loved my use of ProMap. I've documented a couple of processes and I've sent them out for people to review. But some of the feedback that I got was, is ProMap our standard? Should we be using it? Why are we not using Google Docs versus this versus that? And I was wondering if this group maybe had any advice, because it was my understanding that ProMap, the license is available to everyone. There would seem like there was a lot of great reasons to use it. So I was a little not sure how to answer that. And so if you can give any advice as to, some of the benefits of using this tool and if it's a standard and why, if you can help me recap that so I could help share that with other people when they ask, that would be wonderful.
And Mike, I think this points to some content we should put on our website as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Nick, why don't you take it first? Why don't you
Yeah,
go?
so it is a campus-wide, and actually not just even campus-wide, there's a system-wide contract in place. So there's a lot of support behind ProMap being a tool that will be available to our users on campus. Now, there's not a top-down directive saying that you must use this. We are, though, meeting with some folks in IT, Berkeley IT, around various tools that are used for process documentation and about how to guide individuals to use ProMap as a tool. Now, as far as like the best practices or the benefits of using this over some of the other options that are out there, we know that by able to put your step-by-step instructions along with the visual map and along with all the things that allow you to connect and share updates with those involved with your process or connected processes. This is where ProMap shines over things like just a Google Doc or just a Visio that's sitting in 2 different places or in a PDF combined. So I think some of those talking points we should definitely put as a why ProMap on our website as well.
And I would just add a few other things. Obviously, the ease of use of ProMap and all those things might be beneficial. I think the biggest piece is really an institutional knowledge capture. So we have to, because ProMap is a central repository for information, if we start using Google Docs or whatever for maps, that's great. And yes, that's cloud-based, but I think the difference is when someone leaves the university or transfers to another unit, we're not necessarily diving into the processes they built in their own Google Drive folders. So I think it's an access. And as we get to today's topic of continuous improvement and PDCA, the power of having a central repository in one place of our process documentation allows us to map something today and use it. And then someone new might in 2 years have to go back to that to do a feedback loop or something's changed at the university. That process is in one place. So I think we have to think about ProMap as a much bigger central repository of process documentation from now and the future. And it's capturing institutional knowledge to allow us to go back and pick something up that we may work on 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there and pick it back up, or a new person can walk on and say, hey, I'm in this unit. Some of our users have ProMap. How can I find what that is? Whereas, in the past, we would have to dig into individual units or areas, and we're not really going to do that. And process gets lost in that regard. So that would be and then I see a couple of hands up. Eric.
I like what you said, Chris, because we've championed in our organization the value of the fungibility of people, being able to move them wherever you need them. And while we thought we were doing a good job with that, we recently had a departure of a person in a very important operation. And to their credit, we asked them to codify everything they did, which they did a good job of doing. And I had to pick up that function, and they codified it under hundreds of different documents. Priya kind of talked about how long they were. And to find where the how-to was located was very difficult at best. And so I did the simplest, but not the best thing, and it combined everything together into a searchable document. We only had one place to go, but that's not the best solution. And so by using ProMap with Priya's help and the rest of the team's help, the goal is if we were to lose anybody doing anything, somebody could fill in and not leave the university at risk. Not to mention, by our doing it this way, we can identify steps that we don't need to be doing or can be made a little bit more simpler. That also gives better value to the campus of what we do.
Thanks, Eric.
I would summarize everything that we're all saying, all of these experiences, as process ownership. In a way, maybe we don't realize that's what it is, but that's what it is. By having it somewhere that lives outside of a Google, I love a good Google Doc, but the difference between something like a Google Doc and like not even just a ProMap, but having a process documentation that's online, live at all times with an owner, means someone is assigned to decision-making rights. We don't have to go digging for that all that information. And then the other thing I would say is, for those who maybe don't know on the call, or maybe those who just need more clarification, anyone can be a ProMap viewer. So as long as you have a link to a ProMap, you have access to ProMap in the sense of you have access to all the documentation that you need to. You can explore folders that are open. You can look at the kind of hierarchy of processes that we have. All that's available, even just with one link from any ProMap. What is not available is, creating ProMaps, that documentation part. And our team right now is always at week to week, trust us, we are doing hours of talking about how to make training better, more efficient, and how to open up these rights to have more people be content creators. It is the fine line of educating a population and growing process maturity at the same time, and understanding how to create that balance for ourselves.
And the last thing I'll say, and we can move on from this, is that like Nick said, we are working with some folks in IT to kind of get the message out. I mean, building up ProMap has been a grassroots effort. In VCA, which is where my office, where BPMO is at, the expectation that is a VCA unit, if they're going to document the processes, that it goes into ProMap. Obviously, I can't control what the rest of the campus does, right? So to Nick's point, there's the chancellor didn't say, hey, ProMap is the standard. That'd be great if that happens someday, right? This is a grassroots effort where we really want to stress and share and the value of transparency of documenting processes in one central place. Elena.
Yeah, I just want to say, sometimes I just simply link a Google Doc, a beloved, Google Doc to a process, and that's the whole process, because I'm trying to train people to use ProMap as their first place to look for something. And I optimize for search. So when they search for that process, they can at least find it. And that's been kind of my baby step in moving people forward.
That's great.
It's not a ProMap meeting, it's a PCN. I just have to remind everybody that. It's just a tool that's the most.
Can't throw a tool at a problem. However, it's an amazing tool.
and ProMap doesn't pay us.
Yeah.
We pay ProMap.
This is a royalty
I
free.
pay ProMap so everyone else on campus can have it for free. So I mean, that was really important for us to have for that model to work that way, with a contract, with the system-wide contract, and of how it's being paid, so folks around campus can have free access to document their processes in a central repository. That was an important model that we wanted to build.
Any other successes and challenges from the group? This was an exhaustive answer to you, Lisa. You've gotten a whole group's answer.
So, I mean, I can add a success more as that before. As COVID hit at the university I was at, we had business continuity plans, but we had nothing kind of in the cloud and formalizing. So within a week leading up to when we went into lockdown, I was in New Zealand. I mean, we went through and documented all the BCP plans, about 190 over the course of about 4 days. And anyway, it turned out to be invaluable as those individuals with key knowledge maybe got sick or weren't available. It really helped to just really lead the charge in us using ProMap at the university I was at before.
Great.
That's music to our ears. I feel like that's what Patrick, that's always what our one bullet points are, is business continuity. But to hear that it's actually happened as a result of that, that's proven the point. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Elena, is that a new hand or an old hand?
New hand. Okay.
Perfect.
I have a challenge. Okay. My challenge is, you have processes to review. Do you want to review them now? Later, later. I wonder if there are any, I'm thinking about doing, during the summer is kind of our department's downtime, maybe have a, update festival or so. I don't know, some kind of like contained time to, or does anyone else have any suggestions for getting those reviewed?
Yeah, so review is one thing. So for those of you who know or don't know, I'm guessing Helena, like you're talking about your weekly review that comes, ProMap gives you every Monday or Sunday night, they send you an email. They're like, you own this many processes and these need to be reviewed, or there's changes. So it gives you a little download. And Nick, go ahead. You can clarify.
Sure. I think, Helena, are you speaking about the ones that are like the 6 months, it's saying now you're the owner and you got to review it. So it's built into the tool to remind you, hey, you need to look at your processes and make sure they're still up to date and fresh. So there's a default when you create a new process to review them every 6 months. That clock is reset every time you publish a new version of the process. So it's in there to kind of remind you just to keep things up to date, make sure content that's there is up to date. Helena, I think the idea of carving out some time to do it in a block and with the individuals that are involved with the process, it's a great way to do it. And if you wanted to change your default timing, if it's something you don't need to review as frequently, you can change those as well. So if anyone's interested, I can walk you through that too.
So that's the technical point from behind. I wanted to address something you said, Helena, which is kind of carving out time in your unit. I think that's really powerful. That's obviously up to your unit and your culture. But one example, I don't know if anybody from facilities is here, but when facilities got on board, they did a ton of great work. And once a year, once a quarter, they were holding what they were called ProMapathons. And they would get their leader gave them the time, and they would have these ProMapathons and they would work in ProMap. It's not exactly the review that you're talking about, but the more we hear about this in the networking and bring that here, we get ideas. And the more we can have that kind of scrolling up into performance reviews and saying, hey, I participated in a ProMapathon. We have them every, twice a year. Those are the types of things to bring to this unit and to continue to encourage really getting this embedded in the way we work to grow process maturity, which is really what we're striving for, right? Unit by unit. It's going to take us all to really get process maturity to grow to where our supervisors and managers can see that in our performance evaluation. And I know I sound like a broken record about performance evaluations and Achieve Together. We're coming up onto a period of time right now where we got to get them done by the 31st. But I don't know a manager that if you show up with your own goals that are process driven, that is going to turn you away. I'm sure it exists, but I think this is the nature of Berkeley, that the employee can drive our own goals to some regard. And I think bringing process up through the channels of performance will really help us all grow process maturity on campus. And I'll stop with my broken record, but it's super, super important that we all grow together in this area.
I'll say too, the topic for today with process improvement and continuous improvement will also kind of negate the need for having to do these blocks of reviews. So we'll get into that as we go into today's topic too.
Thank you.
This is all great. I'm so glad I came today because I want to cry, because documentation has been just a challenge, and standardization around documentation has been a challenge. And I'm sure it's not just a challenge for RSSP, but it comes up in all of our leadership meetings, and just trying to standardize on something. I'm not sure. I probably will reach out to you, Nick. I'm not sure that, because I kind of will be stewarding a lot of the processes for the entire portfolio for RSSP. I'm not sure I want to review things every 6 months. I might have a different cadence that makes sense for each vertical, because certain operations just will not change because of the nature of our business. But some, I do try to do process improvement and process stewardship, as I call it. I dare not say ownership, just because of the transition that happens throughout RSSP, but standardizing on some processes somewhere in a repository always makes sense. And so I want to try to do better this year on utilizing ProMap, but I probably will need y'all's help in making sure that I'm not creating a turnoff, so to speak, in maintaining that documentation and, on a cadence that makes sense, and sharing it with the appropriate folks. So I'm always doing process improvement exercises with the owners and sponsors of projects. for SIT and non-SIT projects. So it's always good because we're always buying new technology or leveraging existing technology platforms. But it's really critical for them to know what their, not just their current state, right, their future state, and what that looks like, and making sure they thought about it, and not just buying a new, new piece of, new toy or whatever. So I think that it's a great concept, but having been around a while, I just want to make sure that it's realistic for our team and what makes sense for our team and what makes sense on a cadence on reviewing that.
Absolutely. So Ingrid, we can definitely work with you.
Okay.
We'll talk about ways you can either set up time with us individually or even come into the office hours, which we'll talk about towards the end. I know we got one more hand up. Let's go and take one more topic, and then I want to make sure we move on to today's topic of process improvement. For anyone who has to drop off, just a reminder, these are being recorded. So if you do miss the tail end of this, you'll still be able to watch the whole session. Scott.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the big challenges we face is, and it was mentioned a couple times, Ingrid touched on it, and I think someone earlier made the comment about throwing technology at the solution, but I think all these things, the technology just enables the process. So if you don't understand the process or you don't have it well defined, implementing a technology successfully is a challenge. I think one of the other challenges I see that I'm hoping to get better at is, with technology, you implement it, you give people access, and you say it's done. Whereas with processes, it's never really done. It's at a point and it can be improved. So I think it's hard. It's a little bit harder. I think it seems to be why people gravitate to, oh, we'll implement the technology and we're done. We can move on. And so that's something I'm hoping to get out of our work with your office.
And I know Nick will jump right in, and Scott, it's really great. I love hearing that. I think the buzz around automation is the big one right now. Everybody wants to automate everything today, but if you don't know your process and your process isn't good, you're just going to automate a bad process. So we might not be thinking automation, in all areas of Berkeley, but it's happening. We do have bots, and we are automating different areas of places like onboarding and different things, and we're doing great work. But to Scott's point, it is so important that you have a good process before you think. And everybody's driving towards this automation because it's buzzy and it's great, and we know it can be helpful, but process comes first, right? So thanks for that, Scott. It's really, really helpful. But I think we really got to embed this in the university, and we got to get our leaders to really understand why we're doing this deeper and deeper and see the value in it so that we can automate and we can make our jobs better and more efficient.
All right, let me move on here, but thank you everybody for the feedback, and feel free to use the chat to keep going with any other thoughts you may have. Okay, so getting into the topic du jour today, which is what is process improvement? I'll just give us kind of all an aligning definition or thoughts around what we consider, what is a process improvement? So process improvement is the ongoing effort to make processes more efficient, effective, and adaptable, with the overall goal of being, heightened performance in our organization. So it's either through reducing costs, decreasing redundancies, improving quality, or, increasing customer satisfaction in our services. And so how do we do process improvement? In 3 words, in a nutshell, it's identifying the opportunities that exist before us through the processes that we're looking at. So this is why process documentation is meaningful. It's analyzing the current state and the data that we have in relation to that process that we're looking at. And then ultimately using all that information to improve the process, to generate some sort of amount of solutions that will ultimately help us be more efficient and improve the process. So 3 words: identifying, analyzing, improving. That's process improvement really in a nutshell. What are the expected benefits of process improvement? So even if you're bought in, why do I care? So the benefits of process improvement can be seen in a plethora of ways. Many of us have experienced it if we've either been involved in a process improvement project personally, or we've been benefited by a process improvement project that's happened for us. So we see things like improved business efficiency, whether that's, you know, an increased uptake of the number of customers you're able to serve, or in better quality of serving that customer for whatever service or product you're providing. We see, you know, oftentimes if we document properly and we put good solutions in, we can see better cost management in some areas. Some places it may be a little cost up front to have a big savings in the longer term. And then other times we usually see a huge reduction in cycle times or so. A good example of that was the onboarding experience, right? We took all the data we got, we understood the length of time, and then we just started to chip away at, so what things are really taking, you know, what time, and so where can we do cycle time there? So you're going to see a lot of benefits doing process improvement, and there's probably going to be more that are not even listed on this slide. And we welcome you to share those experiences either in later on in this call or in future sessions, so that we can keep understanding the benefits of this work and why it's helpful for us to all participate. So next we're going to hear from Nick about, you know, where to start if you're engaged with wanting to do this type of work for your unit and department, and how you can get started quickly today. So I'll go ahead and stop screen share so Nick can share.
All right. Thank you, Priya. All right, so we've been hearing it throughout the session already, talking about documenting your processes. And when we talk about process improvement, we always want people to start, before you even start going down that road, is understand your current state. If you haven't documented your process, and when I say current state, it's not a process documentation that's been sitting on a PDF for 6 years and now you're kind of dusting it off and looking at it. You know, this is your current state documentation is understood. We know how the process works, and that's what we're going to start off with when we think about trying to do an improvement. So if that process is out there, it's visible, you know, there's transparency, whether it's because it's on a shared drive or you've got your documentation in ProMap, you're going to start getting feedback, whether it's from the process performers or the customers, clients that engage with your process that are using it. You know, you'll start hearing from them, you know, things that don't work, things that they suggest for improvements. And these can come in from emails. So it can come in, if your document's in ProMap and you've shared it in mini mode, you can receive feedback directly from the individuals who are looking at your content. You'll hear it as word of mouth in meetings or things that come up. And if you're measuring performance, you'll see the metrics. You'll get an idea of where your process could be improved. So that feedback is your trigger. That gives you an idea of where you have opportunities for improvements. And we're going to talk about a process improvement methodology that we want to kind of really support. And it's one that we feel that individuals in different departments would be able to engage with their teams and be able to run directly on their own and make it a part of your normal day-to-day. And this is called PDCA. It's Plan, Do, Check, Act. It is a continuous improvement cycle where you start with understanding the issue, identifying the problem, testing a solution, studying how that implementation went, and then choosing how to move forward based on, you know, what you observed as you tested those improvements. So kind of the benefits, how is this different from other improvement methodologies or things that you might have done out there? One of the biggest things is PDCA is you're really trying to take quick wins, bite-sized things that you can do to improve your processes. One continuous cycle of this is following one problem, one opportunity that you're going to make an improvement on. You may have been involved with other improvement efforts that took, you know, one whole process and was trying to solve 10 different things at once and took a long time to really go through it, or is really disruptive. The idea of this is really you're continuing through your normal business and making improvements as you go. So you can have multiple improvements going at once, but they're each their own cycle that's being managed. This becomes part of your normal day-to-day work. You know, that feedback drives improvement and engagement. And again, bite-sized, small improvements. So it's something we could be able to put in place, test, see if it worked. And if it didn't, we can either roll it back to the way it was before, or what we learned from that test maybe gives us a new idea of how we want to move forward with a different improvement that actually we feel makes a better fit. And again, this will really empower staff, because the individuals who are going to be engaged with this cycle is your process performers, your frontline staff that are engaged in the process. All right, and PDCA. So again, we're testing improvement solutions. So one thing kind of want to point out is, yeah, we think if we do a good job up front, we think we understand the problem, we're likely going to put an improvement in place that is going to improve things. Maybe not, we don't get the full improvement we wanted, but sometimes it's not going to improve. You're going to fail. And that's okay, because as part of that, we're going to learn. And that's also why you want those improvements to be small, quick things that you can test, try out, and see how they work. So that's kind of the core of, you know, the way you want to run PDCA process improvements. So the things you do in each of these phases. So here's kind of the questions that you'd ask yourself. And again, I'm going to call out, make sure you know your current state. You understand the current state, it's mapped, that's your starting point. All right, so a problem comes in, someone says this is something we want to improve. Then you start asking yourself during the plan phase, you know, what is the cause? How can we improve this? What steps would we need to do to implement a potential solution? Who's going to be impacted by that? So you start getting some ideas like what's going to take to put this in place. And then we move into the do, where we're actually going to implement that change. Now, that may mean if we're doing something that requires a little bit of training, we make sure we do training or communication. So whoever your impacted audiences are, if a customer is going to see something different, you might want to let them know before you make the change. But a lot of these are going to be your frontline staff is going to do something different, or you're going to ask on the front side of a process for a change in a form. So could be small little things that are going to make a big difference as they continually add up and you do a lot of small improvements. So after we implement the change, we want to start capturing data around, you know, what was the impact? And this will help us determine whether or not we're going to keep the change that we've proposed and we've tested. Are we going to make a little bit of a pivot based on things we learned, better improvements, or we're going to decide, okay, nope, this didn't work. We're going to go back to the way it was, and we're going to figure out another way to improve it. So that's kind of what you do in the check phase, the analyze. You know, did we get the results we expected? What other ideas were generated from this? You know, when we try something new, your process performers, the people doing the work, they're going to give you feedback. Then sometimes this will give them other ideas around, you know, how to improve your process. The staff who do your work is probably your best source for understanding the current state and knowing how to make improvements. When we come to the last phase, we're going to, you know, decide based on what we learned during that check phase. We're either going to reinforce the change that we've implemented. We're going to make adjustments with a new PDCA cycle. We're going to test another solution, or we're going to roll it back and try and figure out, okay, what would have been a better way to improve this? So that's kind of in a high level. Now, I know this is really quick, so I just want to give you some ideas and concepts around PDCA. If you're going to introduce this to your team, some things that you're going to want to make sure you're doing is you want to make it a part of your normal business. This isn't like something we stop and we do a PDCA and then we go back to work. It's part of your normal. It should be a conversation that comes up in your meetings. It should be a way that staff knows that they have a empowerment to look at the processes that they do, to make suggestions, to improve it, to try out new things, and engage with whoever your process owner, or I think I heard the term process steward a little earlier. So, you know, whoever is, you know, in charge of that process, you know, to engage with those owners and to make changes in the process. To be able to manage this, you're going to want to have something visual and something that's going to be shared amongst your process performers. Now, this could be a physical board where you've got a board with sticky notes. A lot of our teams, though, now are very much remote, and you know, you're doing Zoom meetings like we are here. So a lot of teams have tools like whiteboards, like Miro or Jamboard. You might have a tool that has something very much built into this Kanban style of columns with Trello or Asana and Smartsheet. I'm going to show you an example that we've built for you as a template in Smartsheet. So if you're a Smartsheet user, you have a license, There's actually going to be a link right here. You can actually download this. But the idea here is, here we've got the columns in our card view. And if someone comes up with an idea, it gets put right on the board. If we're going to move it, we're going to start investigating. It's put in the plan phase. You can assign an owner to it. And these cards move from left to right across the board as they go through the phases of your PDCA work. In this example, the template that we built for you, the questions we had in that slide with each phases, they're built right into the fields. You can kind of mouse over and reminds you which questions you should be answering, and the person that's the owner of that will do the investigation during the plan phase, figuring out, working with the SMEs that are involved, and get an idea of what opportunity we should do. And as you walk through those steps, you answer the questions at each phase, you move this card from left to right, going through that process improvement cycle. All right, so let's see, we're getting close on time. So just kind of emphasize too, PDCA is a continuous improvement cycle. It's not something that we do once and stop. It's not a huge project that we stop our work and then all of a sudden do a bunch of big changes, and then we try and restart with a huge change in the way we were doing the work. This is something that you do continually. To kind of an earlier conversation, Helena brought up, instead of having to review your processes every 6 months, if you're pretty regularly making changes and you're publishing new versions of your process, you won't have to do any reviews. Your processes are being kept up. So Priya just shared with you a poll. We'd love to get some input from everyone here. So just in your day-to-day work, can you think of a process that you'd like to improve? Is that process you want to improve currently documented? Do you know the current state? And do you think PDCA would be a good fit for your units when it comes to using this for process improvement?
Looks like an extra, just a little extraneous question got added onto the poll, so you can just select whatever answer and then submit, but it's all good.
All right, and just kind of a reminder, so if you are interested in PDCA and you want to delve deeper into this, BPMO is here to support this group trying to build process maturity across campus. We have the drop-in hours that are available right now. In addition to that, ProMap access and training, you can also get through this. We are in the process of building quick start guides that will be kind of guided steps through how we do different things, both around project management, process mapping, and process improvement. So in the future, we'll be able to kind of showcase those kind of quick start guides. Will be both narratively and video guided to help you go through that, in addition to being able to work with members of BPMO. So right now you can use the drop-in hours to either come in, bring a project with you, come in, ask about how you do PDCA if you want to try it out in your team. And this is all opportunities that you'll be able to work with our team to help you in your office.
And Nick, you want to let everybody know, so there was a question about the Smartsheet template that you shared and where that's available.
Yeah, so right in the slide deck that will be uploaded to the PCN website, you'll be able to actually follow that link. So the way it's set up is I'll grant you viewer access, and you'll be able to file save as new. So again, if you're a Smartsheet user and you have a license, you'll be able to do that. If you're not currently a Smartsheet user, that won't be a tool that will work for you, but you could recreate this again in Trello or Asana, or a little more clunkier, you can even do this in Excel and Google Sheets and have cells move across the board. But definitely this example template is available for anyone who wants to use that. All right, so we got a couple minutes of thoughts and reactions to kind of PDCA process improvement and the work that we as a campus is starting to do, and we're trying to move the needle.
This is really great. I think we had really great engagement today. The earlier questions and comments, and Nick and Priya, great great job. Again, like Nick said, this video and this presentation will be available on the Process Champion Network website by tomorrow, and I'll also send out an email tomorrow with links as well. And if anyone feels, again, that we have the office hours, we have a comment form on our website, or you can email any one of us anytime, or if you see me online, shoot me an IM, or my phone number's on my email, so you can text me if you want. So you can never say you can't get a hold of me. So can't use that.
In fact, he'll send you email updates on the solar flare.
If you got questions about why your Wi-Fi is failing, I will send you some
And
information.
if you have no service, you can always get his ham radio too, because
That's
he's got
right.
a ham radio. So the solar flares, I don't think they'll affect the ham radio. We might be able to get across. to him.
KJ6 VFP, that's my
There
call.
it
sign.
is, the
There you
man that's been trying to put ham radio in my redwoods for the last 2 years.
But thank you, everybody, for your time. It's been really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.